Morning guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be my review of my Aprillia Tuono V4 factory. It's a little bit cold, a little bit misty. What I'm going to do is drink my tea, wait for it to get a bit more clear because at the moment I can't really see a great deal. And then I'm going to go out, find somewhere to park up, have a look around the bike, talk about the bike, and then we'll go for a ride and carry on the chat. Although this bike is brilliant, it's not perfect, and there is a few things on the bike that I'm not over keen on. Also, if you've come to watch this video for the specs and the details and how the electronics work and all that sort of stuff, this probably isn't the video for you. This is an owner's review of the bike, not an in-depth detail of all the gumph electronics, because being completely honest with you, I'm not entirely sure what they all do. I've set it up to how I want it to be, but there is so much on this bike, it's just really difficult to understand it all. If I made a video on it, it would be hours long. So there's other videos on YouTube explaining the electronics and how to adjust it all and mess around with it. So if that's the sort of thing you're interested in, have a look for one of them videos. This one is just going to give you my sort of early reviews of the bike, what I think about it, what I like, what I don't like, whether it's worth buying one. So I'm going to drink my tea, carry on getting ready, wait for it to clear a bit, and I'll see you out there. So I found a nice little quiet area to have a look around the bike. So I think that's the first thing we need to do is have a good look around this bike, give you an idea of how amazing this thing looks, because I think it is such a nice looking bike. So let's have a look. So there she is. Such a nice looking bike. Nice and clean as well for you. Obviously cleaned it. Couldn't have a dirty bike on show, could I? I think that acro properly sets this bike off. That's one of the best angles for this bike, I think. Such a nice looking bike. So since I've had the bike, I have added a few little bits and bobs to it. Nothing major, just a few little bits that I felt that the bike needed, wanted. I don't know, didn't really need or want any of it because it's an amazing looking bike, but these are bits I've added to it since I've had it. First things is these mirrors. They're stealth mirrors, apparently. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can't see a great deal out of them, but they do look pretty cool because they do this. How cool does that look? Completely pointless, utterly pointless, but they do look pretty smart, don't they? Another thing I added to the bike was I put these EvoTech crash bungs on it. If you had a bike with crash bungs and you've dropped it, them things save the bike no end. Excuse the plane. I actually dropped my XR with crash bungs on it after taking the forest and crashing it, but I put the crash bungs on afterwards, obviously, because that's exactly what you do. But yeah, I dropped it with the crash bungs on and they made a massive difference. They protected the side of the bike no end. That would have to been a whole carbon replacement, if you remember, but the crash bungs protected it. So if you ever got a bike, that's the first thing I do now is put crash bungs on it. Just a bit of protection, that's all it is. And the last thing I've actually put on the bike is I've actually put bar risers on it. I've made them bars, I think it's 30mm higher. When I test rode the bike, I found it quite wristy. You know, I was putting a lot of pressure on my wrists and it just felt not that comfortable. Yeah, so I decided to raise it up by about 30mm. Talking to people on the forum, most people I spoke to have done that, in fairness. If you speak to dealerships and stuff like that, when I asked them, they said, oh no, you can't put bar risers on a factory because you just can't do it. Well, obviously everyone on the forum has done it, so I went and bought some, and yes, I did fit them, and they're absolutely fine. The only issue is these wires become awfully tight. So all I did is moved this section over a little bit just to loosen off these wires. But I mean, you can get a little bit that goes underneath there and extends this down and make these wires looser, but I just found it easier just to move that over slightly, give these wires plenty more space, and that's pretty much done the job. So that's all I've really added to the bike, in all fairness. I am thinking about putting a bigger screen on it because I want to go away on it, and obviously that screen doesn't really have a lot of protection. So that's another thing I may well do with it, but other than that, that's all I've done to it. So, with that being said, let's get into the likes and dislikes of the bike. So I did actually write a little list on my phone of things I liked and disliked about the bike, because I knew I'd forget about it. So let's start off with the plastics of the bike. Obviously, you know I've come from a BMW, and BMW build quality is pretty damn good. Coming to an Italian bike, I found that I just feel the plastics are a little bit cheap, and just don't really, I don't know, it could be better. I mean, the previous model to this, I think, had like carbon front mud guard and rear mud guard, and this one's got like horrible plastic stuff. I'll show you. Like, if you look at this, it's just literally like just seems a bit flimsy, cheap plastic, and I don't think it really looks very nice compared to the carbon you could have on it. Yeah, you got that one. And then you got the rear hugger as well. Again, look, it just looks a bit cheap compared to like the carbon the old ones used to have. It just seems a bit flimsy, really. Coming around to the front of the bike, also something I also noticed is, if you look at this again, just so you can see that, but it just flexes too much. It's like, doesn't really seem very well built. And another thing I noticed as well, this little bit down here. Now, I thought this was actually broken. You see that very well, but I thought this was actually broken. But I've looked at loads of different Aprillias, and they've all got the same thing. This gap here. Again, it just seems a bit, I don't know, half finished, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, in regards to the plastics, I mean, maybe I'm being really picky, but it just doesn't, the build quality of the Aprilia doesn't seem that amazing. I mean, I think you spend quite a lot of money on this bike and it could be better, and it's a bit of a shame you lose the carbon, really, because I think the carbon would have set off really, really nicely. Yeah, not over keen on the plastics. So another thing that I'm not over keen on is this seat. Now, don't get me wrong, this seat is very, very comfortable. I mean, look. I mean, obviously the lots and lots of padding. It's really comfortable. It's got a wide seat. The thing I don't like about it is these bits here. Every time you ride the bike, they should be tucked in there. But every time you get on the bike, see that? Put a bit of pressure on the seat, and they flip up and they never go back in again, and it obviously leaves all this exposed, and I really don't like that. It really annoys me. I mean, it may just be me, it's just a bit, I don't know, again, build quality. I mean, that could have been a better design. I mean, it looks really smart, especially with this back part here. It looks really smart. I mean, but it's just this, that it's just not even any pressure on that whatsoever. It just flicks out and it never goes back again. So yeah, that really does annoy me. But in all fairness, the seat itself is very, very comfortable. I've been to Wales on this bike and I got off it and I didn't feel any pain in my backside whatsoever. And obviously, because the seat is so wide, your bum sits right across it and it sort of takes away any pressure points. But yeah, so that's another niggle for me personally. So I'm not going to get a bit finicky now. Where you fill the tyres up. Now this, for example, the front wheel is probably the hardest bit to get to. If you look at right at the very bottom there, that's where the tyre valve is. That's where the tyre valve is. And trying to get your hand in there to undo and do up and stuff like that, because these massive brake discs, it's really hard. And the back, I mean, I don't know if you can see in there, the back's in there obviously between the swing arm, but it's easier. I don't know if you can really see that, to be honest, but trying to get air to these tyres, especially the front, is an absolute nightmare. I just wish they'd put like the 45-degree angle valves on it. Would have made things a lot easier, especially for the front. But again, I think I'm being a little bit picky, but it's quite hard to find serious faults with this bike because I really like it. When you really like something, it's hard to find faults with, isn't it? So I said I wasn't going to cover specs of the bike and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into detail of the specs and stuff of the bike, but I think there's things as potential owners or just people who are interested in the bike, things that you might want to know. So again, go to my list. So the power of this bike, I mean, it's incredible. It just pulls and pulls and pulls. It is so powerful. But stats are, it's got 175 brake horsepower with 89 pound-foot of torque. Now, I can tell you from experience, that is fast. Its V4 engine is phenomenally quick, and no matter what gear you're in, you just put on that throttle and the thing just goes. I mean, It's got 3-stage wheelie control, it's got 5-stage traction control, it's got all this other gump that like I say, I couldn't tell you because there's so much on it. But it works all brilliantly and it keeps the bike planted, but oh yeah, it's so quick. I suppose one of my niggles with the bike is it's got a 17.9 litre fuel tank, which isn't the end of the world, but it is when you've got a V4 engine. I don't know if you know much about the V4 engines, but they're juicy. They are really juicy. This bike will probably do around about 100 miles to a tank with maybe 20 mile reserve. So your light will come at 100 miles, you might have 20 miles in reserve, but I mean, just riding it nicely, it canes the fuel. I mean, I'm currently done 80 miles on this bike and it's showing me with like 1 bar left of fuel. So yeah, it's a juicy bike, but which doesn't help because when you ride it, you just want to throttle it all the time, and which obviously means you're going to drink more fuel. But yeah, it is a juicy bike, so be prepared. If you want a economical bike, this probably isn't the bike for you. So something else I think you might want to know is the weight of the bike. Fully fueled, the bike weighs 209 kilos, so it's, for a naked bike, it's fairly heavy, but honestly, when you're riding it, you do not feel the weight of this bike at all. It just flops into corners, and when you're giving it some, it's happy in corners. So although it's quite a heavy bike, corners, it absolutely munches up and it just literally falls into them. It's such an easy bike to ride. And I suppose the other thing I really want to tell you is the seat height of the bike. It's 825 millimeters high. So I'm 5'10" and I can actually flat foot that bike really easily. This is perfect. I mean, if you're shorter than 5'10", you're obviously going to struggle a little bit, but if you're 5'10" or taller, it is blinding. One thing I will say is the lower section of this bike is pretty much the RSV4. I mean, your legs are proper sports bike-esque, sports bike-esque kind of positioning. But with the top half, obviously, the handlebars are not clip-on Z, but obviously proper full bars. So, and with my bar risers, makes a massive difference. So I suppose after all that rambling, me talking about how great this V4 engine is, one of the standout features of this bike is the sound of it. If you've never heard a V4 engine, oh my god, they're amazing. So I think the best thing to do is start it up and let you listen to this engine because it's phenomenal. Are you ready? How nice is that? Just sitting there purring away. Oh. Come on, sound of that. Oh, love it, absolutely love it. I mean, personally, for me, I think the Aprilia V4 is the best sounding bike on the market. And that's probably one of the reasons why I bought it, is purely for the sound of it. I just think it's, I could listen to that all day, every day. Just start it up in the garage, start it up in the driveway, listen to it, give it a few revs and put it away. And that's probably what I'll end up doing in the winter because I'll miss it so much, because I'm not going to ride this in the winter. This is my sort of nice weather queen of a bike, if you like. My Ducati and stuff will be what I use for the winter if I do go riding during the winter. I think it'll be coming out very much after today, to be honest. It's getting a bit colder. I mean, it's sunny, but it's getting a bit nippy. So yeah, this will be cleaned up, polished up and covered up for the winter. So let's go for a ride. I think that's the best thing to do, and carry on the chat. So we're back on the bike, guys. Currently cruising at 61 an hour, and I've got to be honest, 61 an hour, 6th gear, the bike is happy, but it would be happier going faster. And that is probably one of the biggest issues with this bike, is you do tend to want to ride it fast. I mean, I have a bit of an issue with this bike because I can't seem to ride it slowly. I put it down to the sort of the position you're in, the sound of the bike, because obviously, I mean, I don't know if you can hear it now, it sounds really nice just purring away. But when you really open this bike up, that sound is so much more addictive. I'm not joking, that was not even quarter throttle. This thing, it just picks up like absolute lightning. It is so quick, and like I say, the sound with the speed, it just makes you want to ride it faster. Another thing this bike comes with is obviously the quick shifter and up and down. I'm tempted to say it's a blipper, because when you drop it down you hear the revs sort of blip, and it's, again, that's addictive. Hey, some more bikes. How we doing, guys? How we doing? Talking about the quick shifter though, is I was looking at some of the forums, and someone said Aprillia told them that they shouldn't be using a quick shifter anything before 3,600 RPM. He doesn't like it, and it can actually cause it damage. Now, how true it is, I'm not really sure, but I do find that the higher rev range you're in, the smoother this quick shifter is, and it just sounds amazing. I will say the bike does run hot, so on a hot day it does get very, very warm in between the old legs. And I do find as well, if you're sitting in traffic, it starts to hunt, and it did cut out once on me. But after reading on the forums again, everyone's saying the same thing. They run hot, and they prefer the airflow around them. So yeah, I mean, generally when I'm sitting in traffic for a long period of time, I'll just kill switch it, because that way it stops overheating and well, save a bit of fuel, because as I explained, this is a very juicy bike, so any way you can save fuel, the better. One thing I will say about this bike is when you take it to bike meets, you don't really get a lot of attention. Not many people take much notice of the Aprilia, right up to the point when you start it. Then everybody looks. Now, I go to quite a few bike meets, and it isn't one that this Aprilia doesn't get that much attention. People just generally walk past and go, yeah, that's a nice bike, yeah, and that's about it. But the minute you start it, everyone sort of just stops in their tracks and starts looking. I mean, listen to it. Oh my god. If he drives any slower, I'm going to fall off this bloody bike. Yeah, so all in all, guys, is it a good bike? Should you buy one? Oh, yeah, because it's so much fun. Sounds amazing. If you get past the little niggly things, like I said about the plastics, the seat is one of the things that really does annoy me. Every time you get back off it, I feel like I have to push them little pointy bits back in, because I don't know, it's just a silly little thing that annoys me. But other than all that, I really, really like this bike. It is such a nice bike, such a nice bike to ride. So yeah, after 4 months of ownership, 4,000 miles, I am very, very happy with it. Honestly, every time I ride this bike, I'm just giggling to myself because of the sound. Oh, I love it, absolutely love it. Anyway guys, thank you very, very much for watching. I'm going to go home and get warm and have a cup of tea, because that's all I ever seem to do is drink tea on these videos. And I shall catch you on the next one. See you later.